Hello everybody and welcome to Apocalypse Studios playthrough of Blood Omen Legacy of Kain. My name is Jalen Pachenik, your host, and I'm joined once again on our couch by our CEO, Dennis Styak.
Hello.
How are you, Dennis?
Good, how are you?
Good, thank you. You're back on our couch this week. You were away last week.
I am. I stepped on my glasses, but I can still see, so we're okay.
Well, it's all visual and audio based mostly, so
that's right. Yeah.
We're joined this week by a special guest, Cyan Stargazer from our Discord. Say hello, Cyan.
Hello, everyone.
How are you today?
Good. Thanks.
Good. Perfect. We are resuming our... No, that was the wrong button. So unfortunately, now I have to sit and watch through this cutscene so that I can exit.
Tavern's closing. Come on, buddy.
Game.
What? A mug of ale for a weary traveler.
We're playing through this game to answer some Discord questions and questions from you guys in the community about our upcoming title, Dead House Sonata, that Apocalypse Studios is currently working on.
We're also looking for ale for a weary traveler.
But there's none here, unfortunately, so I have to go exit this game and load up mine. Hopefully there's ale in that save file.
Somehow I doubt it. Oh, since I'm here to ask community questions, here's a question from Golanzan on Discord, which is, Dennis, what is that sword you have in the studio all about?
Oh, the sword. So it's a sword from Silicon Knights. And when we formed Apocalypse, I wanted a little bit of history here. And so I brought a few, I would say, relics from Silicon Knights. And that was the first sword I ever bought at Silicon Knights, and so a little bit of background on Silicon Knights. We picked up a sword for every project we completed or every significant milestone in the company. And if you were at Silicon Knights for 10 years, you were also knighted and given a sword. So there were lots of swords in the office, and we probably had over 40 people, maybe more, get swords who were at Silicon Knights. People stayed at Silicon Knights a long time. And that particular sword was the first sword that I bought, and it said, "He who can pull the sword from the chip will be king." And for those who may remember, the Silicon Knights logo had a sword going into a computer chip, very Excalibur-like. So the whole sword in the sword idea, and the sort of meaning behind that sword is, what can we do to inspire people to do great things? And with Excalibur was to create a better world, and the whole thing with Avalon, and trying to make the world a better place. And we were trying to make games at Silicon Knights a better thing. So anyway, when we started Apocalypse, I picked one sword. That's the sword I decided to bring here, just for Apocalypse is a different company. We've learned a lot. I've certainly learned a lot since Silicon Knights, but there were some very good things in Silicon Knights I wanted to take with us, some good memories, and so that's what that sword's all about. So if you're wondering what the saying is and why it's there, that's what that is, and that's a replicant, supposedly, of the Sword of Excalibur.
That sounds absolutely amazing. All right. So another question, and I'm sorry if I pronounced your name wrong, Kyle, but Kyle Pearson asked, what was Kojima-san's involvement like on Twin Snakes? Like, being the title, the direction of the game, and what was your favorite part about working with Hideo? And would you say you learned from him at all?
I learned amazing amounts of stuff, so I learned tons. His involvement was pretty high, considering he was working on Metal Gear 3. So the story behind Metal Gear Solid Twin Snakes was basically Kojima-san and Miyamoto-san were talking, and they had agreed that they wanted to do a Metal Gear exclusively on the Nintendo system, but Kojima-san was very busy on Metal Gear 3, and they did not have the resources, and we had just finished Eternal Darkness. Nintendo was very happy with the quality of Eternal Darkness. So Miyamoto said to Kojima, I have a team, And he didn't even tell me. So they just all arranged. Mr. Iwata and Mr. Miyamoto told me this one day, and we got on the bullet train and met with everyone from Konami, and the deal was done in a day. But they had all this pre-planned. So Kojima-san worked on redoing the script ahead of time. We developed all the code side, and Kitamura-san, who's a fantastic director, Japanese film director, redid the cinemas. So it was fantastic working with him. We talked a lot about philosophy in video games and his thought process on it. And he's a really hard worker, and he is, a real perfectionist when it comes to how the game looks and how he wants his vision to be. It was just amazing opportunity to work with him on that project, and he was very, very involved. He came down several times. We went to Konami's headquarters several times as well during the development of the project. Brought a lot of the team. That was my first time traveling to Tokyo. I've been in Japan quite a bit with Nintendo, but I'd never really been to Tokyo that much, and the team at Silicon Knights went there several times too. So yeah, it was awesome. So I think he's amazing. I consider him a good friend. He works really hard, and he's a great guy. So hope that answers the question.
All right. Another question from Cal Fearsome, this time from Twitch. Hey Dennis, where did the name Silicon Knights come from?
That's a great question. So Silicon Knights really, back in the day when we formed the company, I felt there were many companies that did not have the consumer's best interest in mind. And so we wanted to be the knights in shining armor for the video game industry, where consumers could count on great product. So we wanted to be knights, chivalrous to the consumer, and because we were working on video games, thus Silicon Knights. So that's where the name came from. And thus all the Excalibur references and the logo, all of those things, believe it or not, I designed them. I do some art once in a while. And even in some of the upcoming videos that we're not supposed to talk about or spoil anything, like the map of Nagosawa I've created, and I do some art once in a while. Though I'm not as good as the artist here, of course.
A lot of symbolism involved.
I think it's important. There's a lot in names. And just like Apocalypse, a lot of people, and we play on it, that it's the end of the world, and there's but Apocalypse is ancient Greek to reveal things that have not previously been seen. So one of the main things we're trying to do at Apocalypse is change the way people play games. And so doing a narrative-driven game in the free-to-play space is, I think, is apocryphal or apocalyptic. And some of the deep social media integration that we're going to be showing at GDC, same thing. We want to show some of these new technologies that we're working on and have people really think about, wow, I hadn't considered. You can see when we talk to people about some of the things we're doing, that they think about it for a long time. They're like, oh, I hadn't thought of that. It's really interesting. And our goal is to try to bring some of these things to the mainstream. And I know there's a lot of people out there that are very frustrated that we're not a premium game and this is not going to be a single-player experience, aka like Legacy of Kain. But I can say the direction we're going in, and hopefully everyone in the community will be the judge. But if this works out, I think it will be something that gamers will be really happy about in the future. So anyway, long answer, and I went all over the place with that one. I hope that's okay.
From Barrett Kelvin on Discord, will there be blood moons, blue moons, or harvest moons at all with the since you've informed us of the solar system from yesterday.
Yes, absolutely. The whole idea of mythology around different moon phases, as hopefully comes through in the videos, I'm a pretty big believer. And having weather systems and cosmologies actually affect the gameplay, I'm all in on. So if the community has suggestions on what I'd like to see, throw them in there. I like to create gameplay systems that are very systematic. Even looking at Kain, you've got all the different colors of blood, and they all do different things. We had a lunar cycle in Legacy of Kain, but it was pretty simple. Here, I want to do a lot more variety. Now, it can't be random. It's got to be systematic. So all the different, like a harvest moon or a blood moon, or all the different types of a blue moon will all have different systematic effects.
This question is from Gonzalo on Discord, which is, will difficulty scale depending on how many players are currently in the match or currently in a game session? It depends on
though this part's not implemented yet, the answer just seems pretty academic as being yes. I don't know how else we'd do it. I think that's the only way to do something that's reasonable for gameplay, especially when you could be playing the game single player, or you could be playing it with your friends. You know, obviously, as an example, having 6 vampires with you taking on a boss is going to be a lot easier than if you're doing it solo, so we're going to have to do something.
Right. This is one of my questions on the Discord, but how will Dead House try and get around the no-man army problem in Warframe, which is basically that some classes either require too much setup time that another class can take care of enemies before anyone gets their chance to play?
So I need more context on that from Warframe. I played Warframe a bit, but I'm not a hardcore player like yourself and Ian, so can you explain that more? Sorry.
I guess this could... one of the things I pulled from was that the Lich needs to have a vessel.
Yep.
By drawing an enemy, but what if there's, say, a vampire or 3 who are going around slaughtering enemies faster than a Lich? That a Lich can't really take an enemy as a vessel to begin with.
Okay, so I don't know the Warframe reference still, so but I think there will always be plenty of opportunity to find vessels.
Right.
So there'll be the quality of the vessels is a whole different thing. But again, sorry, with having no context with the Warframe reference that you're talking about, we will balance that out. Don't worry about that. That's easily taken care of through gameplay.
All right. And I'm just presuming this is how his name is said, but Cable Lowlife asks on Twitch, will we see anything like the blood fountain from Blood Omen in Dead House Sonata?
Interesting question. Potentially, yes. Are you doing the...
Yes. After getting my butt kicked by that boss 2 times in a row, I figured no one else on stream wants to watch that happen again. So we're about to go get 99 Hearts of Darkness. Shout out to Vera Keldon for helping me out.
So this is my favorite secret in all of Legacy of Kain. And the idea of this one is... This is a really good example of a systematic system that you slowly build from the ground up. So, of course, you have the sacrificial altars where you sacrifice blood to get items. And so the idea was, once we had possession, and you can actually possess someone, what if you actually possessed someone and then took them to one of these sacrificial altars, and it was our homage to the Cenobites, essentially. And so we did that, and I still love it to this day. I think it's one of the coolest things ever.
So it's those three, I believe.
From Raven Scara, the solar on Twitch. The solar system idea was ingenious. What made you think of doing such a system, and how FPS intensive do you think running it in the background would be?
Those are really good questions. Thanks. First of all, I'm glad you liked it. So that was something Yuri and myself talked about quite a bit. And we're looking at these weather systems, and most games would just say, okay, now you have a snow level, now you have a rain level. And we just kind of kicking back, and I said, we should just do everything. And I was thinking about storm fronts and weather systems. And Yuri went away, and he said, I'm just going to do a whole solar system. And he goes, that's how I can do the phases of the moon accurately. And one day he showed me the simulation of the planets spinning around to make sure it looked right. And it was just like Legacy of Kain, thinking of a system and slowly adding to it. And the only way that happens, and I think this is a problem with AAA games, you need people who are empowered and allowed to be creative, but have a technical level of control where they can do these kind of things. And so on Legacy of Kain, as an example, I was the lead programmer as well as the game director. And so Yuri and I, it's a matter of enabling creative people to understand technical systems and be able to do it. And that's how all that came together. It still needs a lot of work. And the answer is simulating the solar system real time. Actually, it's not going to be that intensive because it's not going to change that much while you're actually in the game. Like, it would be very intensive if we're running at, say, 10 times speed, where a day would go in like an entire minute. But if you're slowly changing, say if 1 minute was an hour, and you're changing and updating the game, the environment itself, it doesn't actually have to change that much, especially if you're doing a real-time system. You just have to keep an accurate time sync with everything. So, like when it starts snowing, it's unlikely you're going to hit a summertime and have all the leaves fall off the trees all at the same time. So, unless you're speeding up time 10 times, it's really not that intensive. So, it's a matter of representing it accurately as possible. So, we're actually pretty excited about it. And there's a lot of pre-computation every time you go in, but once you have, I don't know, something happening during a harvest moon, the harvest moon is going to stay for, a while. Like, it would make no sense to have it up for a minute. So the computation is actually very manageable, and at the same time, there's a lot of potential. Now, doing the challenge is going to be having magic and spells that affect weather systems. That's going to be crazy. That might be a little more intensive, but we're planning for that already. And the engine, the Amazon Lumberyard engine, is amazing at doing weather. And I think it's one of the strongest aspects about the current renderer right now is that, we can just turn on some of these weather effects, and it will take the normal maps and procedure, or just generate where all the snow falls and all that. It's really cool. So anyway, so computationally, very much under control, and creatively, it was just a matter of, I think, empowering people to be creative and understand and love the medium that we're doing, and just putting our heads together and saying, let's take the next step.
Will Dead House try and prevent any form of level boosting, such as high-level players bringing low-level players to a dangerous area and killing all the monsters and giving the player the high-level monster XP?
Yeah, there are ways to fix all of those things through scaling. Had a lot of experience with that with 2 Human. And there are various ways to balance that and to auto-level things so it can't really be exploited. And if you do to such an extreme, it becomes very unpleasant for some of the players. And yeah, we can balance that out.
Right.
So it's just a matter of making projections on the current setup of the party, making sure it's always challenging, and at the same time making sure there's sort of like no kind of god builds where someone's just going around and throwing loot around and stuff like that.
Yeah. Alright, this one is from Cutthroat Gaming 27 on Twitch. In Blood Omen, there's a shield emblem in Noctome, I think,
Noctome,
but
yeah.
no shield item. Was this left out?
Correct. Yes. So some of the items we had pre-planned spells for. So all of those icons were initially planned as spells. So we actually did all the 2D art for them, and some of them were cut out. So there were different types of spells that never quite made it in the game, but we love the art so much we just put it on the floor as decoration.
Alright. From Gonzan on Discord, will our characters have attributes such as endurance, intelligence, perception, charisma, etc.?
It's a good question. I think currently we're leaning towards yes. Under development.
Now, I'm sorry, but I've had trouble pronouncing his name, but Elvion, with all the resources for sharing information on the internet, how do you plan to make the game retain its sense of mystery and discovery of secrets, so that they are not just quickly and dirty, so that way they're not just a quick and dirty way of boosting your character's strength? And this is over Twitch.
Okay, so that's a fantastic question, and we've got something that just popped up.
Smart device would like to connect, but I'm not going to let it. So
Don't know how that came up. So, can you ask that question one more time? Sorry, we had a pop-up on the screen that threw us off.
Alright. With all the resources for sharing information on the internet,
Right.
how do you plan to make the game retain its sense of mystery and discovery of secrets, so that they are not just quick and dirty ways of boosting your character's strength?
Well, that is a great question. So, two ways. One is we want there to be modular things that you can do, so different types of adventures, and the best way I describe it would be things like you want to do in Dungeons and Dragons, like the Ravenloft adventure, which is a whole epic adventure that's got storylines and stuff. However, we want to combine that with some procedural generation so that every time you do it, it's different. So there's not going to be... It's going to make some walkthrough challenging in some ways. And then the other thing we're doing is we're doing what's called this deep social media integration that I'll be talking about at GDC actually in a month, where the people who are watching, if you're streaming, can affect the game and the storyline as well. So you can have all of these different things that can specifically affect your experience differently. And so every time you play, theoretically, you should have a different, interesting experience that's really catered around your playthrough and is not the same as everyone else's. So the idea is, how do we keep the story coherent and at the same time allow for lots of levels of change? So that's the idea. Those are the things we're working with.
Alright. This is from Gonzan over Discord. Will there be tournaments in Dead House?
I think so once we introduce PvP. And that's a while away. We want to get the game stable, so there'll be several ages out, and when we will introduce PvP when we open up a playable house, the first playable house other than Dead House.
Alright.
Things are going well so far. This has been
The Heart of Darkness.
yeah,
Heart
2
of
weeks
Darkness.
That Super Smash Brothers tournament really made me rusty. I'd like to see a king.
Another question from Elvion
I
over
think it's
Discord.
Elvin. I know that I can know the name you're thinking of.
Yeah. I'm not entirely sure I pronounced it, but
Elfwine?
will there be some sort of permanent open world? If there is, will you be able to meet random players while exploring that world?
So, I think the best way to describe it is we're going to have a persistent universe, and there will be places where you can gather and meet other players in large numbers. But in general, when you're going on an adventure, you will be with a team probably of 6 players. Now, when we open up PvP, there'll be more. But so I think the answer is yes, but we're not focusing on MMO aspects. We're focusing on instances, and there will be open areas that are specifically for everyone in the persistent universe to get together and talk and have like, I don't know, parties in the crypts, whatever they want to do, whatever they're doing in their personal location space. However, most of the game itself will be instances specifically generated around the party, but it will be persistent. So it's kind of in the middle.
All right. From Amzer over Twitch, will there be Hearts of Darkness in Dead House?
I don't know if there will specifically be Hearts of Darkness or not. But will there be things like Hearts of Darkness? That's really going to come down to some specific gameplay aspects. And the way that Death works in Dead House Sonata is very different than most games. So in Legacy of Kain, when your health meter goes to 0, you essentially die. In Dead House, we have the whole trinary archetype system where death is a matter of changing states. And we've worked in phylacteries and basically the ethereal realm with magic. So a Heart of Darkness doesn't necessarily match well per se with our world. Well, I actually can think of a way that it could, but as it stands right now, we'll be really focusing on the trinary archetype system and take it from there. It's always possible. Anything's possible.
All right. And from Golden Zan over Discord, which I agree with, this is, will cats have a meaningful connection to the world of the dead as they had in Egyptian culture?
Will cats?
Yes. Cats are pretty important around here.
Yeah, we love cats, obviously. So the Gothic lore that we're heading towards is really a hybrid of Egyptian and sort of medieval research. So, though I haven't thought about it from that specific angle, I think it's definitely possible. And if you look at some of our early concepts for Anumat, we have sort of very hybrid Egyptian-looking places with some Gothic architecture and statues. So, yeah, it's possible. We love cats. We're thinking about having a Lord Cheeseburger God in there, and so there's lots of things that we want to do with cats. Go ahead, sorry.
I do remember the Adopt a Cat drive.
Yes.
We do have plans for that in the future.
Yes, we're relaunching the Adopt a Cat drive in the future. That is correct.
All right. Once again, from Kyle over Twitch, is there a release date for Dead House Sonata so far?
So we are going to start with, I guess, really early access into the ages and the narratives. But if you're looking for when's the whole game going to be what we'd call reasonably complete, we're at least 2 years out, if not more.
Perfection takes time, unfortunately.
Yep.
Yeah. Well,
Rome.
I don't know for perfection, but we're going to do the best we can.
Mm-hmm.
And if to create lots of layers of narrative, So just like we explained in the last video about the almanac system, a cohesive design, in my eyes, means the story, the technology, the audio, the gameplay, and the graphics all have to come together in a cohesive way. And the only way to do that is continually iterating. And as you come up with, say, a narrative concept, you work that into the gameplay. The gameplay works its way into a narrative concept. It just requires a lot of iteration and being active with the community, so the community can tell us what is fun and what's not fun, what they like, what they don't like. From all of those perspectives is gonna be very important to us. It's such a massive concept and it's on its own, and to get the level of detail of, say, a narrative that we had in Legacy of Kain or Eternal Darkness or To Human, it just takes time. We can't throw that stuff together in 6 months or a year. It just takes much, much longer. And our team is still really small right now. So as we grow and as some of the band comes back together and joining some of the new guys that we have in Apocalypse, you're going to see a slow growth. So we're sitting there rolling out all these ideas to see what people like and what they don't like. And certainly, so with the almanac system and the weather systems, people seem to be really thumbs up. And getting feedback on our current art direction. We seem to be getting a lot of good feedback on that, and we've gotten we've been told very bluntly on some things what people don't like, and so we're all working towards that.
Rome wasn't built in a day.
That's correct.
Exactly.
Once again from Kyle over Twitch, will there be raids?
Yes.
Lots of questions about raids so far.
Was that race or raids?
Oh,
raids.
Raids. Yeah, I thought that was raids, right? Raids.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You said raids, correct?
Yes, raids.
Yeah, and so I guess I'll talk about it. I'm always worried about we're giving away so much, but imagine if we had a tool. Raids right now and say an MMO take a long time, and a lot of the times with raids, it's really organizing all the people to get together. Imagine if we provided tools where you had a really epic adventure. Say, let's use Ravenloft as an example, which is Dungeons and Dragons, where you play it over a period of a year and a half or 2 years. You play through Ravenloft, and you get together every 3 weeks with your friends. So what if we allowed people to create a party? And they could progress through a certain amount of a narrative adventure, which is essentially a very deep dive or a raid where there's a huge boss at the end. That there would be some really cool loot, where you could save that progress and continue to get together with everyone every 2 or 3 weeks. We want to provide tools like that, so you're not all just hanging around in global chat saying, "Hey, looking to raid this boss," and want to kill Diablo. Anyone want to kill Diablo with me? Like that kind of thing, right? So
yeah, rather than staying in a party for like 3 hours and making no progress.
Right, and waiting for the party to form. I think that's valuable time for the gamer that could be better spent. So we want to provide tools, and so for raids, that's what we're thinking, and we're thinking of a narrative focus as well. So you get more than just loot when you play Dead House Sonata. You'll get an experience. That's the goal.
From Elves on Twitch, will there be civilians in Dead House Sonata? Meaning passive NPCs that you can either slaughter for fun or use for darker purposes.
Like this.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine.
Yep.
I couldn't imagine it without it. Yes. Here we go. Here's the big secret. Hellraiser homage. Here we go. Did it crash?
Nope. There it is. Ooh.
See how all the chains came out?
Brutal.
Oh, jeez.
99 Hearts of Darkness. You did her.
Whoa.
There you go.
All right.
Boy. Apologies to everyone who had to watch me stumble through that for a couple minutes, but the rest of this playthrough...
It's my favorite secret in all Legacy of Kain, actually. Besides the ship puzzle, which people just finally solved this week, apparently.
I saw that on the Discord. Congratulations to those who finally figured out the secret.
How many years has it been? That was a pretty unfair puzzle.
As long as you can admit it.
23 years, yeah.
Oh, jeez.
There you go. One puzzle's taken 23 years to actually finish. It's funny how that stuff works. You make these things, and I assumed people would find it. But I actually assumed they'd figure it out in about a year or so, but I guess it was a little harder than I thought.
So, from Mornblade over Discord, will we get the full Dead House Sonata experience if we stick with the same class? And won't we lose some lore if we don't change classes or houses?
So I think the answer to that is you should never have to change houses to get all of the experience. However, you're going to get a different perspective. So, as an example, say we launch Giga House whenever we're happy with Dead House, and there'll be constant new content coming up for Dead House. Giga House will have some of its own content as well, but people in Dead House will be able to experience the Giga House content from the perspective of the undead. If you want to play as giants from Giga House, then you'll be able to experience that as well. So that's how I would put it. So the world is persistent, and the levels in the adventures are hopefully going to be designed in the right way that, of course, you can do all the right things. There will be some things specific to each house. It's sort of a combination of Dungeons and Dragons and EVE Online is the only way I can describe it. So with EVE Online, which was, a game Aaron and I played to death. I played it for years and years and years. That whole emergent storyline thing is very interesting. And, there's something to be said about context when you're playing a giant versus you're playing, say, a vampire. But that's the way we're gonna. So we'll never force people to play a house or play a certain race. That's not the goal of the game.
From Golden Zen on Twitch, will all players follow a similar single-player storyline in Dead House Sonata?
I don't think so. I don't think so.
Right.
Well, so to be clear, there's going to be a world arc. There's going to be a character discovery arc. There's going to be all the things from the different ages. So there's a lot of emergent storytelling in what we're doing. Will there be a global story arc that everyone is exposed to? Yeah, 100% absolutely. However, will there be custom catered things depending on what choices you make as a player? What levels of deep social media integration you're using? All of those things will matter. So there will be some things that everyone shares, but there'll be other things that are very specific and individual to each player.
And this question is from Livin over Discord. In reference to the fact that all undead are tied to one object, will the designation be transferable from one object to another, or can we make more than one of them to have at a time? Can objects be upgraded to provide some type of additional perk, possibly even having a part in the crafting system? The language on that was a bit confusing at the end.
No, I understand, and it's very exciting that people are actually interested in the phylactery system, in the essential system for the game, and the answer is yes to all of the above. And there will be specific classes like the white who have multiple phylacteries, and the gameplay that we have coming for him is very, very different. Not anything I've seen in an RPG before, at least I don't think so, but it's pretty cool, and there's some pretty neat things that we'll be working on with phylactery. So I hope that people who are asking these questions can see the potential with this kind of thing. And if you look at occult lore with objects and phylacteries, and Supernatural is a really interesting, like, I love Supernatural, I've liked it for a long time. I think the research behind that show is fantastic, and I think that's why that TV show's been around for so long. They've done a lot of very good research into the occult, and what are the possibilities of knowing how artifacts work and how essence works within the system that we can do with the gamers and with the different classes. So a lot of exciting stuff to explore, and these will be things as we roll out the white. We'll be exploring with players and trying a lot of these things, but yeah, there's a lot of potential, a lot of permutations.
From Cable Lowlife, will houses be revisited with additional classes, or will the initial classes released be the only ones available for that house?
That's the plan. For us to pull this off, the team's going to get really big. Because we're rolling out new houses and plus adding more classes. We're shooting for a base level of 7 classes for each house at least. And then the amount of additional classes we roll out for houses will be balanced upon what the community wants. So if the community, as an example, wants to continue to see us rolling out more classes with Dead House, we will. Or if they're no, give us more classes for Giga House, we'll do that. If they want both, we'll do the best we can, and hopefully there's the resources there to just keep making sure the community is happy as possible.
A question from Gonzan over Discord. Who or what is the Black Hand? Are they a faction or a person?
Oh. That's a deep story question.
Well, I'm giving too much away now.
Yeah, I can answer that. Obviously, I don't know if I should. Is that what does this community want to know?
There were a couple questions I remember. Some people were pretty interested in the Golden Zan, or the Black Hand, not the Golden Zan.
Yes.
Well, okay, so the Black Hand is an elite regiment among the House of the Dead. So think of them as like a military unit.
Sort of the best of the best.
Yeah. So, well,
Right.
So you know how in a lot of military formations, say a regiment will call themselves something? That is the name of a specific military unit within the House of the Dead that becomes quite famous, called the Black Hand.
I'm starting to see Ian and a few other people say, put Gonzan in Dead House.
We could do something like that if people really wanted it. We have some ideas for the community, especially everyone who's in now, and we're in the really early days. Contributing to the community, joining the Discord, seeing how active the Discord is right now warms my heart. All the questions coming up. So we are looking for various ways to maybe do some things to give rewards to the community that they might like as an example, putting someone like Golden Zan into the game, into the lore that makes sense, or maybe have that be the root name of another sort of more directly relevant from a mythology point of view. We're talking about doing all kinds of things. Also, we're discussing giving away things on the stream, maybe some bonuses, and I'll be right back. I got an idea. I'll show you. I'll show everyone. Hold on. I'll be right back.
Okay.
All right.
We'll see what Dennis has got. Oh, uh-oh.
So, this is an example of something like, this is a limited edition Metal Gear Solid's Twin Snakes GameCube, pristine quality, never been opened, of Metal Gear Solid Twin Snakes. Would this be something like a good community prize, maybe to give away in the stream or some kind of contest? Are these the kind of things that people want to see, or no? I don't know. So, or maybe one of the swords from Silicon Knights with one of the plaques. You know, are these the kind of things that, what kind of rewards? We really appreciate the contributions to the game, and we would love feedback from everyone on, you know, what people would like to see and what the gamers would like to see in the game. So, had this for years. It's pretty cool. Never been opened.
I do know
It
that
definitely looks cool.
the community's expressed a lot of not concerns, that's not the right word, but they'd like to see a lot of stuff put into the game through the founders packs, say being able to name a city or a character or something by purchasing a founders pack, which is something we have to talk about later. Obviously, I think we haven't quite finalized what will be in the next set of founders packs.
Correct.
So,
And I think, so everyone knows our perceptions of how we see it internally. We're just getting to know the community now. We love everyone in the community, and we're looking for feedback. So tell us what you want to see in the next round of Founders Packs. So one of the things are, we don't really want to do bigger, more expensive Founder Packs. We think we're way up there now. There's one that sort of encompasses everything. So we want to give gamers and people who are interested in Dead House more options. So let us know what you think, what you're looking for Founders Packs. You know, tell Jalen, tell myself, just message us, any of us, post it in the forums, post it in the Discord, and over the next few months, we have a lot of ideas, but we want to make the next round enhancements. And certainly, if you bought the highest tier, there's not, you know, the rollouts will just be more stuff. But we want to give gamers options for these kind of things too. So we'd love feedback. So just let us know.
I certainly know that if I would name a city, I would just constantly go there to attack it.
you would attack your own city that you got to name.
I mean, why not?
It's a fair point. It's your city. You can do whatever you want with it. Attack it all you'd like.
Then you get into the whole idea of Constantinople and Istanbul.
Well, yeah.
Yep.
With different ages.
All right.
That's the kind of emergent
Narrative that is very fun.
that is very interesting, yeah.
All right. Amzer on Twitch asks, what do you have in mind for campaigns? Will they have RPG elements such as conversations, cutscenes, or even events, or will they just be fighting?
No. We're going to want to take a very narrative approach, contextually. So the former, not the latter. They definitely won't just be all fighting.
Are characters going to be able to level up and learn skills or abilities, like in a lot of games nowadays, or are they going to do something along the lines of no levels but just training abilities? And from Barrick Keldon over Discord.
Yeah, so we're working towards what I would call a hybrid system, where we have specific class skill trees and then specific combat based around the certain weapons that you have. So it's kind of a hybrid, I guess.
Oh.
So it's not a pure skill based system.
All right. Now a question from Kyle over Twitch. Hey Dennis, how long do you estimate Dead House Sonata's story and content to continue in years?
Right now, the rough plan is whether we, hopefully the game, of course, has to be successful, but as it's roughly mapped out now, there's at least what I would guess between 12 and 15 years worth of narrative to tell. And I know that seems like a crazy amount, but it's a big story. We've got a lot of ideas.
There are certainly a lot of games getting close to that amount today.
Yeah, well, it's a free-to-play game. It's persistent and online. If I was to say the story was going to take you 8 hours, that'd be kind of small.
Yeah.
So.
Or something that could be finished in an afternoon.
Yeah, no.
Will we be able to jump and move over obstacles? And this is from Gonzan over Discord.
To be determined. That's very specific to gameplay. It's hard to even... Depends on the content specifically. If you look at... Are we talking about puzzles like wolves jumping on things? Are we in the Soul Reaver realm where we're pushing objects and climbing on different things and having verticality and specific gameplay with jumping? We'll probably not have so much of that. So it depends on the context of what you're talking about, and us iterating on the game to make sure we're hitting the right things. The game's gonna be a 3D version for the most part of Legacy of Kain. So imagine, the way I like to describe it is Dark Souls, or say The Witcher meets Diablo, or Legacy of Kain meets Diablo.
Right, so nothing like having to scale a large obstacle course by jumping on planks, sticking out.
A lot of like parkour or sort of Assassin's Creed kind of thing, that's not really in the plan.
Alright. From Amzer on Twitch, would you design something like player's personal crypt that he can decorate with some loot he finds and buys, just sort of their own place to hang out?
100%.
Right.
Even vampires have to kick it back and relax somewhere. So.
Well, that's kind of the cool things. Like, what would each class want? Would a vampire want a dark tower, a crypt, and allowing people to customize their own habitat is really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we're definitely that is definitely the direction we're going in.
For some reason, I just imagined something like House Hunters only for crypts.
Yeah.
This is from Craigslist over Discord. Does No Go Sua have multiple languages or just one? What are, or is there, or is this languages? And will it be completely created languages, or some will be inspired from, for example, Egyptian or Greek?
So we all stand on the shoulders of giants, so I think it'd be very difficult to create something that's not based upon cultural norms that we experience, and matter of fact, it's part of popular culture. So I think we're bound by that if we're going to create something good, as being in the world as we know it now. Like, even if you look at Dune or you look at Game of Thrones, that's all based off of historical events, even though they're very original. But a lot of the mythology and lore and culture is based off of the culture of the world as we know it. So the answer to that is yes. I can't remember what the other part of the question was.
Will the world have multiple languages, and what will these languages be from, or what are their names?
Well, as much as I like to take a tokenistic approach to our world building, I don't think we're up for the task of creating original languages. So we'll be localized, I think, in definitely many languages around the world. But I don't think we're going to try to create an original language. There might be some. We might have some ideas and do some different really cool things, but to be linguistically fully fleshed out is not likely. Now, to have different languages and different sort of spell casting and things like that, like we did in Eternal Darkness. Yeah, absolutely, that stuff's really cool. But to be as crazy as Lord of the Rings, and where he phonetically created, or they phonetically created languages, that is not likely to happen with us.
From Caleb Lowlife from Twitch, will players be able to play with each other despite being from different houses?
Yes. That's the goal.
Alright.
So basically, could there be a party of giants and undead? Yeah. Could there be PvP between them? Yep. So the idea is to allow both co-op and PvP. PvP is really tough. You've got to do it right. And that's why we're starting off server-based, and one of the reasons we're using Amazon Lumberyard and AWS. Peer-to-peer becomes very difficult PvP because someone's always going to have the advantage of the host. So that's why we have some of the architecture and subsystems that we're starting out with right now.
Alright. I guess then it basically becomes that the relation between houses is really on a case-to-case basis.
Yes.
And
will change over time. Just like the world changes. Right? You look at World War II, Russia, and I don't know. Russia was an ally. You look at the Axis versus the Allies, and Germany during World War II was an enemy. Now, in today's global environment, Germany is an ally, right? And so things will change over time. Countries change. For the longest time, say the Middle East was the dominant center of the world, and then it became Western Europe, and now it's kind of like North America for military might with the USA. So all of these things will change over time, and different houses will come in and out of power. And it will be largely emergent gameplay determined by the player base.
Alright. From Gonzalo with Discord, will there be voice acting? Is the story driven by conversations with characters, or more narrated like Legacy of Kain?
I don't know if I quite understand, because Legacy of Kain had voice actors and was narrated. So the question, so do we want to have voice in the game? Yes. I think the best way to lose people in the story is to make them read within a video game. I just think it's not a great medium. When I originally created Legacy of Kain, the reason there's no text in this game is one of my pet peeves in RPGs was that they had all these great stories, but having to read on a monitor just kind of sucked. So we want... You're having a tough time, huh?
A little bit, yeah. We're finally back, though, with a lot more Hearts of Darkness.
So we are going to be narrative-based, and we are going to be doing a lot of sort of groundbreaking things, and we'll test some of these things. Hopefully they will work. But there is going to be voice acting and voice actors, yes.
Alright. Mike, sorry, 21 on Twitch asks, will there be any sort of punishment for the characters not showing up for battles? So I guess that would mean that if say a house decides to declare war on another house, will players be punished for not participating?
Well, that's to do with the PvP. It has to be balanced in a way that the hardcore base doesn't totally dominate, but in PvP that's generally the way it is. I guess that's to be determined, and to balance these things properly will require a system of conquering different regions that makes sense, that just can't be overpowered and nor interfere in the PvE experience for people who don't want to do PvP. So that's not determined yet, but we want to do it in a way that's fair and equitable, I guess is the only way to describe it.
Alright. From Golden Zan on Discord, will quests have waypoints and markers to show you where to go, or will players have to find the quest location themselves, i.e. Oblivion versus Skyrim quest markers?
TBD, to be determined. I guess we'll have to see. My hope is that we wouldn't have to do this, but if there's navigation issues, we want to make sure that people aren't spending their time finding out where to go and enjoying the adventure rather than finding out where to go. So, you know, if people are getting stuck, we can certainly do those kind of things. Of course, the best thing to do is avoid it and design the game in such a way that it's not needed. Time will tell.
Not spending 20 minutes trying to find the exit to the level.
That's the worst.
At every split in the path. Yeah.
That's the worst.
From Walmarogen on Twitch, will there be a battle royale style mode?
Oh, it's way far in the future. I think there's games that do that well enough. I guess if the community really wanted it, but I don't think that stuff is that hard to do. But we'll be focusing on narrative-driven with some PvP in there as well. But I don't know. We'll see. It's not on the immediate queue.
All right. Once again from Gonzan, this time over Discord, how many different environments will Dead House Sonata have?
I'm not sure I understand by environments. Look at the game, there'll be like many. We're talking about how many different areas. The world is pretty huge with continents, and that's not even including multiple dimensions or different planes with all the different houses. So
I mean, I'm guessing he was talking about, like, will you have like a forest environment or like a desert or a rocky canyon environment?
That's the goal.
All right. From Elve on Twitch, will there be character marriages? And if so, could a ghoul marry a forest giantess?
Interesting.
Well, certainly did in Norse mythology.
Mm-hmm.
You know, giants were marrying gods. And Loki, I think, was the offspring of...
Frost giant?
Yeah, he is a frost giant, yeah.
Yeah, so... Well, I guess it's TBD, but if the community really wants that, if a Banshee wants to marry an ice giant, I don't see why not.
We do have plans for the bride skin for the Banshee, potentially.
Yep. I think people should be able to marry who they want.
Yeah. Free choice. From Barrick Keldon on Discord, is true death permanent?
Implementing a hardcore mode is under discussion. It's pretty brutal.
Yeah.
Maybe. We'll see what the community wants. I think one of the things that really drives me crazy in games, particularly in narrative, is when a character is killed and it's like, well, no, not really. We're going to bring them back through. So, love aliens, but bringing back Sigourney Weaver after she was killed, like, to me, that character just should be dead.
Yeah.
Don't bring them back. There's no reason. It's okay for characters to die. And
we established they died, and now you're cloning them.
Yeah,
and
it's
you have the same memories.
Yeah, so it can be pretty rough when your character dies, though, especially if you've been playing that character for a couple years and it's just blicked, and it's dead.
Especially have some good equipment on them when they die.
Well, that's a whole different story. You know, getting the artifacts and stuff back, that's always achievable, but the actual... If we could do it in such a way that to do something like that, which is obviously possible and having some kind of hardcore mode like that, if we could have a lasting effect on the narrative where people would be like, I use Kain as an example. Kain the vampire was killed here, and it has a lasting effect on the world of Nagosawa and the environment, then I think that would be really cool. That would be awesome.
I guess sort of like this character had a heroic stand at this point.
That's right.
And yeah.
And it's like when you think of Lord of the Rings, it's like the Dead Marshes, right? In the Second Age, when they had that huge battle, and there was many people killed, and then eventually the water overtook the burial ground, and suddenly now you have the Dead Marshes and this haunted marsh. Things like that, I think, are really neat. But in order to do that, characters have to stay dead. Bring characters back from the dead, unless you're Dead House.
Yeah.
But then they're different.
Yes.
People in Dead House are different. They're not the same. When you're coming back from the dead, you're not the same.
Death does things to you, man.
It does. It does.
Right. From Smoke Bramadin on Twitch, will players be able to visit previous versions, and even if they cannot affect the major events?
Say that again. Sorry.
Will players be able to visit previous versions, even if they cannot affect the major events?
Yes, that's the whole idea of ages. So, we want to do it in such a way that there's an historical precedence for stuff, and people can see what previous players have done in the past, and archiving it in such a way is super important. And at the same time, we want people to be able to make their own mark. So, there will be pivotal events in all ages, so people will be making history as they play as well. But there could be some very iconic things that people will want to visit and check out, and we will allow that.
Right. From Goonzan on Discord, what are true names?
True names are a sort of, it's one of the core concepts within Dead House Sonata. One of the main themes in Dead House Sonata is exploring truth and what does truth mean. And true names, you can see this in many books. It's even predates the Bible. But knowing the true name of, say, a demon will give you power over them. The Gentleman Bastard Cycle is a book series I strongly recommend. There's many book series that talk about this. How magic is related to the truth, and the closer you get to the truth, the more powerful your magic becomes, and the more power you have over people. And knowing someone's true name gives you a lot of power over them. So these are the sort of concepts we'll be exploring with true names and truth. And if you look at the Necrolibriatus on the website, you'll start to see some exploration into that now, and we give some hints away of where we're going.
I guess sort of knowing the truth about reality allows you to bend it.
That is the idea of chaos magic, the whole core concept of chaos magic. What is truth, and be able to bend reality to your will. And like no one, as an example, philosophically, we don't even know what this existence is.
Yeah.
What is the meaning of life? Why are we here on Earth? Is there something after death? And if so, why are we here on this Earth in our physical bodies? Like, what does it mean? Why are we here? And these are knowing the truth. Imagine being able to know what the answer to that is. That would change your perspective and how you did things on Earth currently. So
the truth can either be horrible or I guess uplifting.
Correct.
It can either break you or
Correct.
make you stronger.
Yep. And then there's all the concepts of eternalism, the block universe, and that's where quantum mechanics meets prophecy. Some very just interesting topics that we want to explore.
Moving on from Caleb Lowlife on Twitch, how will Twitch audiences be able to interact with the streamer?
Watch our talk at GDC and upcoming videos. We have a lot of really cool concepts. That is incoming. Look for that to come out at GDC within the next month. We'll be answering and showing specific examples of that. We're very excited and can't wait to talk about it.
I'll definitely be looking forward to that.
Cool.
Will we be able to fight over control of towns and capture areas? And if so, how will it work? This is from Barrick Killzone on Discord.
Yes, to be determined. That's way far off in the future when we introduce PvP. We want to get, we've got a lot to go. We got to get the single player, our cooperative experience, narrative driven experience, PvE system down to the point where we're happy with it before we even launch that stuff. But the idea is that, yeah, absolutely. The whole idea of PvP is actually conquering territory, in my mind, anyway. I know there's a lot of games out there. All they do is focus on a specific battle or a team sport. I see this as kind of, if you look at some of my previous games, even our first one, Cyber Empires, it was like the Total War series, really, before its time. We were 2D at the time, but you would look to conquer an entire map. Games could take weeks and months, and with a persistent universe, we're lucky enough that we can actually have the conquering of cities and regions and things like that. So the answer is yes, absolutely. How it's all going to be done, that's details that it's way down the line for us right now.
All right.
But if you're looking for where we're going to go, just have to look at my previous games. That'll likely be the direction that we start. Where we end up is likely going to be very similar, but the idea is we want to focus on emergent gameplay, narrative, strategic alliances, and things that would affect all the different houses. Look at all the pillars that you've righted.
We're getting
very
there.
well.
Almost done.
Yeah.
Once again from Caleb Lowlive on Twitch, will we see any unused story elements that were planned to be used in Blood Omen 2 used in Dead House Sonata?
Well, I think in some way, this is, I'm taking Dead House Sonata where I would have taken Legacy of Kain, had I continued with it. So from that spiritual position, yes, tons of stuff. And I hope that comes through in what we're doing and people can see that. Now, though, we're so much later, like 20 plus years later, so we're taking advantage of the new medium. The medium of the video games has changed, where it used to be single player sitting in front of a television on a console. Now we're multiplayer, always online. So these are the kind of things we will work in. So yes and no because of all the new stuff, but I think generally yes.
Not to mention that a lot of games nowadays are continually updating.
Correct. And I think that's good for the consumer, really.
From Golem Zan on Discord, how big can hordes get in Dead House Sonata?
How big can hordes get?
Yeah, such as you are facing a giant group of enemies or guards who you have to bowl through.
TBD. We'll see. Right. We're going to try to make it as big as possible. And you have to strike a balance between like a horde battle and a boss battle, and what would we like to fight an ice giant? And then we've got to also work it in so it's consistent with PvP. And I'm using Giga House as a really good example of where we want to take things. So all TBD.
All right. From Amzer on Twitch, Dennis, do you think video games are or can be art, and why? I'd love to hear your opinion.
Oh, we just have to do a Google search on our video games art. I've done several talks. Yeah, I believe they're a new art form. I think the previous art forms were all linear art forms, meaning books, films, televisions, music are linear in the sense that you can't interact with them. So even if you have something like Pulp Fiction, which is a non-linear storyline and jumps in different places during time, you always see it from beginning to end in the same way that a director intended you to see it. Video games, we have the opportunity of allowing interaction from the gamer that makes it non-linear, and on top of that, you also have these new deep social media integrations where we have viewers can we're taking people back to the early Greek plays where the audience watching the game can have an influence. So I absolutely believe they're a new art form. So they're not only they're an art form, it's a new art form. They're still largely undiscovered country, and there's so much potential in this medium. And eventually, now we're using TVs. I'm sure we'll have direct neural implants into our retinas after a while, where we won't even need monitors, and then we'll be, approaching, the holodeck on Star Trek. All of these things will be coming in, but essentially the medium of video games is 100% an art form, and I consider us artists and entertainers, even though I have 2 degrees in computer science. There's Revy.
There he is.
Hey, buddy.
Yeah. You could say we're already approaching that with virtual reality.
Yep, VR and AR are progressing. I think we've got a long way to go in those areas, but yeah.
A question from Gonzan on Discord. Is the world map of fixed size and form, and will newer regions ever be added?
There will be new regions added for sure, in other dimensions and planes of existence, possibly other planets. So we're not just limited to a single continent or world. And hopefully through some of the narrative and some of the gods and some of the stories already, if you read Seven Sons of Twilight on the website, that becomes apparent. So hopefully, so the answer is yes, it's much bigger than just the world of Nekosua.
Right. What we see is just what we know of so far.
Correct.
And I guess you could say that once we start learning more about the truth, our horizons will expand.
That is also correct. And
right,
if we have community contributions, the community can affect the ways that we go and the way it's going to change as well. Super exciting, I think.
Yeah. From Elva on Twitch, what are you going to play after you finish Blood Omen?
We're thinking Eternal Darkness. We could do Too Human. We could do another game. We could play all kinds of stuff. We can just keep playing and answering questions. That's kind of the drill right now. Luckily, Legacy of Kain is quite long, and but we can. You can let us know what you want us to play.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't really think the game matters what we play on Twitch. It's just a matter of being here to answer your questions. We'll play almost anything.
Okay.
Sorry for the noise there.
Another question from Gonzan. Who or what are the Elder Gods in Dead House Sonata, and what is their role?
Yeah, these are all like super deep narrative questions. There's many.
Yeah.
There's many levels of gods. There's many hierarchies. They have their own politics and their own goals, and there's wars of the gods, and the wars of the gods affects the mere mortals, and the ascendants, and the sort of the in-betweens of from mortals to immortals to ascendants to gods. So that's all part of the story. But there's a lot of them. And there's going to be more as we go, and we'll work on. I would love to work on some with the community, but yeah, there's just a ton there.
I think you already mentioned Lord Cheeseburger as a god.
That's right, Lord Cheeseburger.
Could he possibly be a dark god, though? I think Lord Cheeseburger is far too nice.
He is a cutie, but it's all relative. Compared, if you were a mouse, you might see him as a dark god.
That's true. Very true. All about your perspective.
I mean,
that's right.
Wouldn't all mortals technically be mice to Lord Cheeseburger?
At this point, yeah. I mean, we feed him, we pet him, give him everything he wants. I guess he considers us like mice, basically. We do anything he says, happily. There he is.
Hey guys.
How's that sound?
What a good boy you are, Cheesy. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Love these guys. Rev is sitting there by the mic, watching Lord Cheesy.
All right. From Caleb Lowlife on Twitch again. Will there be any kind of multi-house characters? For example, a giant that died can come back as an undead in the dead house.
TBD. We've been talking a lot about cross-pollination between houses, so this is a very interesting possibility, sir.
Right.
Let's get Dead House right. Introduce another house, get that right, get PvP going, and then that would be, I guess, the third step.
All right. How will players be discouraged from all playing exactly the same, going Zan over Discord?
Good game design. Hopefully we will do it well.
The heart of darkness.
Going through a lot of Hearts of Darkness here.
Yeah, you're going down.
Yeah, a little bit.
You're sucking.
A little bit. This has not been my best day. I can't figure out how to get back to where we were supposed to because it teleported us to the pillars. So my solution was just to go all the way back through, which isn't the most fun to watch, I know, but
It's a big. This is one of the biggest levels too.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's a big world. This game is much bigger than I was expecting.
It's no joke.
This one, yeah.
All right. From Raven Scara on Twitch, do you see the rise of cloud gaming as the death of traditional gaming?
No, I see the rise of cloud gaming as simply a transition of mediums. The medium is changing, and getting narrative into Dead House Sonata and doing it in a way that is enjoyable for gamers is going to be key, I think, for either us or someone else to do it for gaming's evolution. Because right now, as I've said in a few other streams, 90% of all global gaming revenue is now free to play, and that means if we want to see story in games continue, we've got to figure out ways to make sure that there's strong narrative in free to play. Otherwise, as the game industry continues to go more and more towards free to play and online games, stories will die unless someone takes up that mantle. And I'm not saying it's just on us. I'm sure there are other people working on it. But that's why I'm a big believer in what we're doing. So no, I don't think so. I think it is an evolution of a new future. I think narrative-driven games will always be around, and even games that aren't on the cloud they'll still be made. It's just the most popular ones are almost undoubtedly going to be on the cloud and free to play. I think the free to play model financially is superior for both the consumer and the game creator, and the technology as it continues to develop, there's really no going back. We're past the event horizon, and these are things that I just think can't be avoided now. So, hope that makes sense.
All right. From Golden Zan on Discord, what exactly does the possession mechanic entail? From what we've been told, it's possess enemy forces, escape, or scout out.
Possession. You mean in Dead House Sonata or in Legacy of Kain?
I think in Dead House Sonata.
There's been a couple questions in the Discord and stuff about ghouls, right? Can possess, or was it wraiths that will be possessing
Oh, I see.
other people? What exactly does that mean to possess them?
Control them. Have fun.
Just toy with them.
Be all you can be. And be someone else too.
From Elve on Twitch, will there be horror elements in the game? And undead can be pretty intimidating, but would there be something so horrific that it would make the undead themselves lose their sanity?
Very interesting question. I'm a huge Warhammer fan, and certainly they started adapting some of that stuff into the Warhammer universe now with the Flesh Eater courts and Madness with the vampires and the vampire. I think it's really cool stuff. Yeah, there's certainly possibilities that way. I think by and large we will be a dark fantasy, and horror games have certain things that you have to hit that are going to be pretty difficult for us to do unless you're essentially only playing the game single player, because you have to make the players vulnerable and stuff like that. So there are some possibilities of going horror and doing some we do want to do some pretty challenging things content-wise. However, I think we'll largely be always a dark fantasy game.
Alright. Once again, from Gonzan on Discord, will heavy items such as armor slow down our character's movement?
All that has to be balanced out. So that's just standard gameplay stuff.
Alright.
I know a lot of that was a big part in Dark Souls, which we're getting some inspiration from. And yeah, in Dark Souls, if you carry too much, you start to roll heavier, you're slower.
And... your evasion starts getting worse. From Caleb Lowlife on Twitch, will there be any houses that will have to be unlocked with game progression?
Probably not. I think that part will be open for all as the narrative progresses. Now, will there be some things that have to be unlocked through progression? Yes, for sure. But I think the houses themselves will always be available to everyone who wants to try them.
Alright, so that means that if you're a new player in, like, the 7th Age and you want to be in the giant house, then you won't have to go through the game as an undead first.
No, you can jump straight into Giga House and be an ice giant if you want, as an example, and not ever play, say, a vampire.
Alright. Gonzan asks on the Discord, will our characters have... Wait, haven't we already asked this one? Attributes such as endurance, intelligence, perception, and charisma. I think we already asked this one.
Yep, and it's to be determined.
Yep. Alright, from Amzer on Twitch, would you design something like a group spell casting so that a spell can be more potent?
Yeah, having those kind of mechanics where it takes multiple people to cast a spell is something I really like, and something that I would like to see in the game. And so the goal would be yes. TBD is the hard answer.
Alright. Once again from Gonzan on Discord, will there be any Saurian-like creature or race in the game?
Any kind of what?
Saurian, I think that's a Mass Effect race.
Oh, dinosaurs?
Yeah, sorry.
Will there be dinosaurs?
Oh, alright. Alright, yeah.
Oh. There is a possibility for something like that with a particular house that hasn't been announced yet. I'll just leave it at that.
Alright.
Dinosaurs. Everyone loves dinosaurs.
I just like the idea of turning into a velociraptor and running around screeching.
Oh yeah, dinosaurs are cool. That was my favorite that was the first thing I started drawing back when I was becoming an artist when I was really young. I just draw dinosaurs. Love drawing dinosaurs. Love dinosaurs, period.
The lizard men are my favorite Warhammer race, so I'd be
you're a
super
lizard
excited
man?
for that.
Yeah. Alright. From James X Carmichael on Twitch, did you ever have a blocking mechanic in mind when making Blood Omen?
Yeah, we did. Definitely had a blocking mechanic, and Jim Curry and Scott Steinberg, who were marketing, had many conversations with me to pull it out because they thought it made the game too slow. And those guys were great. I really enjoyed working with those guys. They were really engaged in the product and really cared. Jim Curry worked on the script quite a bit with me, actually. He was very much engaged. A lot of people mistakenly, assume that the story, like Amy Hennig worked a lot on the story, but she had literally nothing to do with the story for the first. By the time she came on the project, it was done. But Jim Curry from Crystal, him and I worked. I just really enjoyed working with him. I would like to work with him again in the future. Jim, if you're watching this, you did an awesome job. But yeah, Jim was in marketing. He's kind of like one of the unsung heroes. And yep.
So another one from Going Down on Discord. Will the game provide the players as much statistics and information about their time spent in the game as possible?
I don't see why we wouldn't do that. That's just collecting data, and if it's something gamers really wanted, we can certainly provide it by default, I think. We'll be gathering all that information anyway, and I'm a big fan of big data in the sense that I want to use and apply big data towards narrative, not towards trying to make people buy stuff, but more towards an experiential perspective where by using and following what they do as a gamer, we can customize the content to give them a better experience.
I guess sort of like, this is just me spitballing, like there's that vampires are the most important race, and so are the most popular undead, and so another house might have, hey, let's go kill vampires, sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Alright, that sounds cool.
I know that there's talks as well, stuff like with the Necroliberatus, if you went and did some quest somewhere, or if you spent around doing nothing, when you see your friends, the Necroliberatus would talk to them and tell them about what you had been doing, or not doing, rather.
Correct. So imagine if we started storing all the things that you did, and there was a sentient weapon that would store your adventures, and then you got together with your friends later, and this the Necroliberatus will start telling your friends what you did last week. Wouldn't that be cool?
Question from K-Master Lock. Question: if you could remake Blood Omen again, what way would you make it that you couldn't originally due to restrictions? Example, an open world.
My biggest regret with Blood Omen Legacy of Kain, I've actually talked about this quite a bit in past interviews, was fixing the loading. Because I was both lead programmer, president of the company, and both negotiating and having to deal with contracts at the same time, I had to make the choice of, do I fix the loading and make it much faster and more organized, or do I complete these contracts? And I had no choice, actually. I had to work on the contracts, and it took me away from some of the programming. So if I was to do the game again, I would make it, load free. That'd be one of the things I'd change right away. It's my biggest regret with Blood Omen Legacy of Kain.
I see you there, Smoke, saying painful loading.
Yeah,
or load down. Yeah. From Elevate on Discord, what is the ballpark average number of abilities a character can have access to at the same time versus the total number of abilities per class?
TBD. We might even make that class specific and dependent. Our discussions so far in that area are depending on the type of character and the how much of a twitch versus a tactical player they're going to be. Like generally, magic users will probably have more skill bases in their bars, and
Alright.
more melee or action-oriented characters with the weapons will have more combo moves, but maybe have less skills at their side. So we are, we'll be rolling these things out to the community and seeing what the community thinks and trying to get to a good balance. But we would like to do it somewhat asymmetrical with each class.
All right. From James X Carmichael on Twitch again. What do you guys think of the Elder Scrolls take on vampirism? Sorry, took me 2 tries. And how they tackled it gameplay-wise.
Well, they did it differently in different Elder Scrolls. Some of them I really liked, and some of them I really disliked. I thought it was pretty interesting. The immersive aspects of it were pretty cool. I don't know. He'd have to say specifically because there's so much different vampire lore, so many things I like and don't like. It's really hard to pin that down. I think in general, one of my favorite aspects. I think it was the 3rd Elder Scrolls where I loved the way they did vampires, and I think in the 4th one I hated the way they did it, or I just didn't like it as much. But we're going back in time, and it's not a game that I made, so my memory's a little wishy-washy on it from the experience. But I think there's both good and bad things, and the vampire lore is so deep and so different amongst different cultures that there's all kinds of things that I guess I could agree with, not agree with. Generally, as you can tell from both Blood Omen and Deadhouse Sonata, I really think if you're going to say have a race of vampires, I guess I lean myself more towards the Warhammer sort of fantasy or Elric, Michael Moorcock vampire, where warlords, magicians, very, very powerful creatures, not just purely hardcore wrapped around Bram Stoker's vision of a Dracula.
Right. From Gonzan on Discord, are all transformations related to essence?
I think most of them will be related around essence, but TBD.
Alright.
Some classes won't even use essence, right? So.
Yep.
From Amzer on Twitch, will enemies have health bars over their heads, and will damage numbers float over their heads, or will it be more intuitive like Blood Omen and Diablo?
Well, Diablo did have numbers over their heads. Didn't they have like health bars and stuff?
I can't remember.
I can't remember. It's been a while since I've played Diablo.
I think Diablo had health bars for enemies. TBD. Well, we're gonna, clearly want to show as much information as we can, and then we want to sort of keep the. We'll probably have options to turn that stuff off. Is my gut.
Okay. From Gonzan over Discord, how do vampires come to be in Deadhouse Sonata?
Part of the story, TBD.
Alright.
To be discussed. We have lots of ideas there. We think it's going to be pretty interesting. We hope gamers like what we're doing.
From Cable Low Life on Twitch, will we be able to have our own clan emblems, somewhat how Warframe has allowed?
So it's hard for me to count on Warframe. I think so, because I don't, like I said, I've played Warframe, but not a ton. We want to do all kinds of things, especially combine that with Ages and have a whole pile of narrative things as well. But a lot of player-controlled, emergent storytelling are things that we do want in the game. So, having your own clans and your own story based upon that is some of the cool things that we do want to do.
From Gonzan over Discord, will there be any form of rank-based matchmaking for either co-op or PvP?
Yes.
Alright.
I actually don't think you can have a decent experience without that stuff. I think you pretty much, that's a basic. It's a basic feature you must have.
Even just to separate the better players from the bad ones.
Well,
It doesn't
even
feel good
for level matching, for
Yep.
yeah.
It doesn't feel good to play.
That way you don't have
your skill level.
That way you don't have the top tier player on the other team while you have a bunch of new players on your team.
Correct.
Yeah. From Barrett Keldon on Discord, how will weapons or equipment be handled? Will each type of weapon just have one static damage type, like in D&D how swords deal 1d6 plus stats, or will damage scale with character, with the level of your character or item level?
A combination of both, I think. So weapons are definitely going to have certain types of damages, and will determine the type of combos that you have from a Twitch perspective, or for a Twitch action perspective, to be very specific to make sure we don't misunderstand it with Twitch streaming. And then there will be skills on top of that, and skill trees and other things that give you options in combination with that. That's the plan.
All right. Another question from Gonzan over Discord. Will the mobile versions be exactly the same as PC, and will crossplay be coming to Dead House Sonata?
We do want to do crossplay. I think it's going to be pretty difficult to make all the versions the same. But there will be crossplay.
I just noticed that Ian had a question for me. What's my favorite game right now? Right now, I've sort of been split between Warframe and Monster Hunter World.
Very good game.
Yeah.
What weapon do you use in Monster Hunter World?
I'm sort of the weird person where I really like the ranged weapons.
Okay, fair enough.
As I find out, is apparently very unpopular.
I wasn't gonna say anything.
Yeah, well, I mainly like them because they give me a bit more flexibility in situations.
Mm-hmm. I know what you mean. Definitely.
Yeah.
You bring on
Plus
different ammos for specific fights.
Plus, it's a lot easier to dodge an attack I can see coming a few seconds beforehand rather than being knocked away as soon as the monster turns.
Mm-hmm. I know what you mean, for sure.
Yeah.
I couldn't get the hand of ranged weapons in that game, though.
They're definitely an acquired playstyle. From Golanzan on Twitch, can you describe a regular workday apocalypse, about the workflow or how the team possibly meets when working on new designs, and how do you discuss and work on challenges that feature cooperation?
Well, we have weekly meetings where we get together and everyone goes over their work and what they're working on, and we generally have an agile development method where we sprint for usually 3 to 4 months. So each 3 to 4 months we're working on something different, but it's always changing, it's always fluid, but that's how we're doing things right now. So our current sprint is heading towards GDC, and then each different sprint we do different things, and we were always evaluating our timelines and our schedules and looking at everything, and and one of the real big differences now compared to, say, something at Silicon Knights is we're getting direct feedback from the community now. It's very interesting because, as an example, I've released more story stuff for Dead House Sonata than I ever had for any video game in the past before it's released. And I thought maybe I was giving away too much, and the community just seems to want more and more and more all the time. So, but it's good, it's helpful, and it helps us balance and, I guess, focus test, are we doing the right things, are we going in the right direction? Certainly we showed the game really, really early. We had a prototype with what, definitely graphically very primitive, and gamers let us know. They told us how much they hated it. So that's why everyone, if you're looking at some of our videos, so you're seeing a focus on, okay, let's crank up the fidelity of the graphics so people know that we can make a good looking game. You know, that's sort of the things that we're doing, and we just keep going back and forth with the community, make the game the best it can be, and we feel we work for gamers, and you know that's going to be the same with the narrative and everything else. So so far we've had little feedback on the narrative, so not a lot of feedback, a lot of questions asking of more, so I assume that's a good thing.
Yeah. So far it's mostly been looking to see more before I think they give any criticisms and stuff. It's hard to say a story is bad if you don't know the beginning, middle, and ending of it. So
Yeah.
I will also say that there are a lot of things I want to know, but at the same time, I know that maybe talking about them before they're more elaborately worked on might be a bit too early.
yeah, that's always been a challenge, especially with the writing stuff. Like, we're working on a video for next week, but we've already know that some things may change in the future, so we don't know if everything's finalized, but as far as we know, this is what we're going with, and
there's lots of things in flux.
From Caleb Lowlife on Twitch, will there be a more traditional leveling system or something more unique to Dead House Sonata? For example, a level 3 vampire.
I think we're leaning towards a traditional leveling system right now, but there will be some unique things within that.
From Amzer on Twitch, will Dead House Sonata have some type of special building or place like the Pillars of Nosgoth with similar importance for the story?
I guess it depends on what you mean by important to the story.
Yes, there's of course going to be some iconic storylines.
Right.
You know, it's without giving stuff away. It's the only way I even know how to make stories, to make things important and iconic and memorable. So
I guess one of the things is that there may come some important buildings or places that develop because of players.
Absolutely.
That eventually players will establish as this is a place that, like, we settle this, like, sort of a community built-in rule where if you want to argue about something, do it here and fight.
Yes.
Something like that. Like.
Correct.
K-Master Locke asks on Twitch.
Looks like we've. Looks
something,
like
there are some
no.
with the game itself, but we'll see if this
might be a good time to wrap during this crash. I don't know. When's the last time you saved, Jalen?
Before this town, just after the special masquerade dungeon.
Because we're almost at 2 hours and the game has crashed.
Yeah.
The gods are speaking.
I don't know what I did to anger them today.
It wasn't you, obviously. Sorry. Let's get the last question and let's wrap up for today.
All right. Yeah. K-Master Locke asks, will age have any impact on your character? For example, a 300-year-plus old vampire versus a fledgling vampire.
Well, yeah, you know, that I think will come through leveling, and we also are entertaining something called Age of Death. How long have you been dead before you come back to life? That's a whole different thing, so that's kind of in between that. So I guess through levels, you know, obviously how powerful a vampire you are, but let's take, say, you're a wraith. What if you died 10,000 years ago and you come back? And, you know, it was a cinema.
Well, there it is.
All right.
Having problems finding the cinema? That was really weird. It sat there for
quite a while.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, at least it's
going. So Well, this is a good place to stop too, right after the cinema. So
Yep.
yeah. So I hope everyone enjoyed the stream, and I hope we answered your questions. Oh, this character was so much fun. Kain doesn't take any shit.
He never does. Okay, Cyan, did you have any other comments or questions for Dennis before we end the stream?
I personally don't.
Awesome.
No? All right. Well, we really appreciate you coming onto the stream. Thank you so much, Cyan Stargazer. We're always happy to have fans from our Discord over on our join us for the stream to host and guest.
Thanks very much.
No problem.
Dennis, did you have any other?
No,
finishing
just
comments?
thanks everyone for joining us. You know, tell everyone, spread the word about Dead House Sonata. Tell people what we're doing, what we're trying to do. If you want to support us, you know, check out our store and our founders packs on deadhousesonata.com. And we're here, we're working for the community, and we look forward to interacting with everyone next week. Thanks, everybody.
Yep, you can find us next week at the same time and place, twitch.tv, where we'll be streaming more of Blood Omen, Legacy of Kain with Dennis Dyack. I don't know if we have a guest next week, but we will let you all know, and I can't wait to see you guys then. Thank you for joining us in Apocalypse Studios. Have a good night, everybody.
Take care, everyone.